Okay, everybody, we'll call this meeting to order. Can we begin with a roll call, please?
Mr. Olszewski. Mr. McKenna. Mr. Stepanovich.
Here.
Mr. Dice.
Here.
Mr. Lemak.
Here.
Mrs. Ling. Present. Mr. Diakopoulos.
Here.
Mayor Seinen.
Here. Okay, thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mr. Nestico, proceeding with the agenda, I see that there are unlisted amendments this evening in 14A and 14B. Could you just go over those briefly?
That is correct. Those items we recognized on Monday that those items were left off of the agenda. We did go and publish it on our website as well as post it at the municipal building 24 hours in advance. We also notified the various parties that have been involved in this matter, including those opposed to it, that this item would be listed on the agenda for this evening. Okay. I ask the council consider adding those two items to the agenda.
Okay, so at this point, council, any questions or concerns? This has satisfied the sunshine law. We just normally advertise in a newspaper as well. So any questions or concerns about proposing to add this to the agenda?
I have a question.
Sure.
At the last meeting, it was tabled due to the fact that we only had 5 members present. Tonight, we also only have 5 members present. So why are we not tabling it until we have?
Well, I'll say this, we did not know we were going to have 5 members present whenever we decided this. Matt said he couldn't make it this morning, so I'll defer to council. I believe we have one more meeting, although I will say the applicant is here, so I do kind of feel bad making them come out. So council, thoughts?
I'd like to go forward with it, 5 of us, because it's been delayed.
I will also like to make a note that the 2 members that are absent were opposed to it, and they are not here to make their argument.
Well, that's a valid point. Eli?
Yeah, I was just thinking that we were going to have if Matt was here, it could be an even number, but then we had the tiebreaker with the mayor had we had to go there, right? That was the only thought. No?
No, I don't have a vote.
Okay. I understood that from the last time that there would be a tiebreaker that would go to the mayor, but maybe I
I
misunderstood.
think somebody misspoke.
Okay.
I think the way we've looked at in the past, historically, the charter, it takes 4 votes to win or 4 votes to lose. No matter, if it's 3-2 again, it's basically tabled again.
I see.
If that's, unless it's 4-1, either 4-1 either way, that's how it's to work.
Yeah, and if I recall, thanks, Mayor, that jogs my memory. The issue was prior, it was 3-3, right? So essentially,
Yes.
someone had to be here to break the tie from council. Got it. So at this point, I'll say, council, any other thoughts, or does somebody want to make a motion to add them to the agenda? Or
To do what?
we have to make an official motion. Someone would have to move to add items 14A and 14B to the agenda, just officially.
Okay.
So, based on the discussion, if someone would want to make that motion?
Maybe I have another question.
Sure, absolutely.
What if the vote turns out to be 3-2? We'd have to come back again.
Correct. We would have to come back at the next August meeting to do it all over again, and I believe that would be the absolute last meeting based on the extensions given to us by the applicant.
Wow, that's a difficult one. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, they're here, right? The
Yeah.
applicant and the opposition, so we could always make a motion after we hear what they say to table it for the next meeting?
Yeah, you know what, that's a great point, that at the very least, they're here, we should hear them out and then take it from there. Yeah. Okay, so with that being said, well, let me ask you this, any issues with that? We'll at least hear what they have to say, they are here. Okay, with that being said, could somebody make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for the addition of items 14A and 14B under the announcement of unlisted amendments,
Okay, adding those to the agenda.
adding this to the agenda.
Perfect.
Second.
Thank you, Jason and Carl. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Me?
Okay, we'll note for the minutes that Ms. Ling was opposed, but the motion passes 4-1. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our consent calendar items. Any questions or concerns about the minutes? Can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the minutes from July 23rd, 2024.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jamie and Eli. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. It's unanimous. That brings us to comments by the mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Dice. First up, the Murraysville Farmers Market continues June 6th to September 26th, Thursdays 3 to 7. Live music, weekly food trucks, local vendors, and more. And it's down there in the field in front of the Murraysville Fire Station and Murraysville Medic 1. There's one Tuesday at Townsend left. On August 20th, the performance is from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And generally, there's a beverage truck and a food truck at that location.
Thank you.
The next item is the satellite location to apply or renew a license to carry is being held here at Murraysville Municipal Building on September 12th from noon to 7 p.m. The application process, applicants must provide a Pennsylvania driver's license or Pennsylvania photo ID card with a current address. New applicants must include the name, address, and phone number of 2 references that are not immediate family members. There's a $20 fee for the license, and payment is accepted in the form of cash, check, or money order. After completion of the application, a background check will be performed through the Pennsylvania State Police Instant Check System. Upon arrival of the background check, the license will be issued. I will note that this is first come, first served. You come in, you sign up, and you take your turn. That's how we've always done it in the past. Lastly, and most importantly, this Saturday is our Murraysville concert in the park. Lots of food trucks, beverage trucks, games, live music, and fireworks. There's 3 different groups playing. It opens at 4. I believe the first one starts at 4:30 or 5, and they take a little break in between each one, and then the fireworks follow immediately after. Looking at the weather right now, it says it's going to be good, so hopefully it stays that way. That concludes my announcements.
All right, thank you, Mayor. That brings us to comments by the Chief Administrator, Mr. Nestica.
Only one comment for this evening. The school road closure is hopefully wrapping up here within the next 2 weeks. We are hoping that they are open before the school year starts. That was something that was discussed in advance of the project. It sounds to be like they're right on track. It's going to be close, but we're hoping that it is opened. If it is not open at the beginning of the school year, it should be just a day or 2 after. So just an update to the community that road closure should be ending soon.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Okay, that brings us to community input. Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, sir? Thank you. And just say your name and address for the record, thank you.
And my name's Michael Tometsko, Tometsko. I live at 4250 Westertown Road. Could I just get clarification on what the vote was? So you guys will be voting on these proposals this evening?
Right now,
Or is it getting tabled?
it's on, we're going to at least discuss it and then potentially vote on it. However, that doesn't mean it won't be tabled. So to a certain extent, we have to hear what happens, what's said by the applicant. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's, wow, I'm very dismayed by that. 2 people that were voting for what, I'm arguing for are not here. This has been tabled twice. I actually didn't leave to go on a vacation for one of the meetings and found out that, it was canceled and wow, okay. So I can't help but feel this is in some way being manipulated. I mean, that's just, okay. just give me a minute. I prepared some things, but kind of taken aback.
Mr. Dice, if I may, just as Mr. Temesco prepares, I think it's important just to be, for purposes of clarification, not only for tonight, but even to anybody watching, that any action of council must receive 4 affirmative votes in some form or fashion. So there have to be 4 individuals, whether voting for something or opposed to it, in order for it to pass. So
No, I understand. I believe you sent me an email that said that, you thought that there were only 5 members present, and it was going to be rescheduled as a result of that. I have the,
yeah, that was at the last meeting. We
right,
did cancel
so,
it.
5 today as well.
Sure. And we kind of saw, or at least 6 of the votes fell at that time. We kind of had an indication that bringing everybody out to that meeting, yourself included,
Right.
didn't seem to make sense because it didn't seem like, based on that prior decision,
Correct.
we were going to get to that 4 affirmative in
would
either
just-
direction.
Correct. I would just ask that you see my perception of what's occurring.
Sure.
Yeah, and try to at least understand that. Because it's just us. We don't have neighbors, we don't have, 60 people to come and, also speak on our behalf. It's my wife, myself, and 3 kids. So, we don't have this community, which is a shame, but to kind of speak on our behalf. We're taxpayers, we volunteer in this community, lived here since 2003, so I would hope that we would be represented equally. So this is what I prepared to say, but so we oppose this development on Westertown Road for 2 reasons. We don't think it's a responsible development. Environmental impact on Steele's Run and the traffic are our 2 points that we like to drive home. So this is a green space in Murraysville. There's MCP, there's Walter Reserve, there's the Kaywood Reserve. Steele's Run is one of 2 high-quality cold water streams. Turtle Creek is a very fragile watershed due to acid mine drainage. Steele's Run goes right through the heart of Murraysville Community Park, which fortunately is a, if you get pollution from herbicide runoff, other things that could damage your wetland that goes right through your park. It's Steele's Run and Haymaker Run, which allow Turtle Creek to not be orange as it is through export. The Heritage Trail is there. Businesses rely on that. You have Griff's, you have Ginny's, other businesses in Penn Trafford, as that trail extends the whole way to there. They could all be adversely impacted. It's an approved trout water. Trout stockings have been canceled historically throughout time over the years because of the quality of water of Turtle Creek. So if we damage the stream, it could have a bigger impact on tourism when people come to fish. So, I think that's an important part. The tricolored bat was discovered by an environmental group that is on the Pennsylvania Endangered Species list. It's proposed on the federal list. That was with a 90-minute acoustic survey that was done near the Walter Reserve across the street from this proposed development. There could be other animals that are endangered that live there, such as the Indiana bat, but we wouldn't know until we look for it. So I think that's something important that needs to be done. The traffic on Westertown Road is dangerous. There are no shoulders on that road. It is highly traveled by park traffic. FRAA had a tournament for baseball a couple weeks ago. I sat on my porch. We had 100 cars go down the road towards the park. Any traffic review or traffic survey that's been submitted. I've submitted videos to all of you of people speeding on that road. People drive in excess of 55 miles an hour. If the entrance to this development gets put adjacent to my home, it will make it very dangerous for us to pull out of that driveway. So, I think from a public safety standpoint, it's important because there's a lot of cyclists on that road. There are a lot of pedestrians that run and walk on that road. And then it's a liability for us because of, just personal injury and property injury. I have other concerns about the quality of my well. I brought that up before. There's just a responsible way. And I listed those, as possible suggestions for conditions on this approval, which I do believe that you guys are able to place. I'm not saying that this property can't be developed. I just think it needs to be developed responsibly. I think a greater riparian buffer zone needs to occur to help protect that stream, to protect that waterway, greater than what the DEP recommends. The developer said numerous times they plan on leaving a lot of these mature trees that are there. Trees are a liability to developers. I have friends who are developers in this community. I was with them recently at the Homewood Hunting Camp, and we had this conversation, and they're pretty much sure they will clear cut that property. They'll leave very few trees behind. They're a liability. They fall on homes, roots are a problem. It's just not feasible. So when they say they're going to leave this forested land, it's completely forested now, so it will be deforested. And that's not good for that stream. I would hope that another condition would be having that entrance moved away from our house. There is a half a mile of frontage on Westertown Road. There is frontage on Hilty Road for the entrance. It does require a permit because Hilty is a state road. It's a different permit, so it's more money. He may have to ask for another permit from the DEP to get a bridge or something, put that entrance further down closer to Murraysville, MCP, and away from our house. That would be the safe thing. And that's what I would ask that you guys do, is put conditions. I know there is something in that zoning ordinance. This is a conditional approval. You guys can put conditions on the approval. So I'd ask that you do that for safe and responsible development. I think it's important. It's in the interest of the community as time goes on. For the future of Murraysville, it's important to us for our property, the value of our property. Nobody would want, if we decide to move, nobody's going to want to buy our home if you can't pull in and out of the driveway. So I think there's reasons to put conditions to allow the development to happen, but to do it responsibly, because we can't seem to come to an agreement otherwise. We've been here numerous times. I feel like I've been saying a lot of the same things. We're not getting anywhere. So that's why I put, in the email I sent, some solutions to this. I'm not trying to cause a problem. It's not that I don't want him to develop his land, but do it responsibly. Be a good neighbor. This isn't being a good neighbor. I think those are things that, can make this development happen. It would make us happy. It would make him happy because he can develop his land. So I would ask that you guys consider that.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay?
Yep, thank you.
All right. And I would ask that you don't vote on it tonight. I mean, I still can't believe that could actually happen.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll keep that in mind. Okay, with that, we will move on to our liaison comments and committee reports. Jason?
The library meets on Thursday of next week.
Thank you.
The Parks and Recreation Foundation met this Monday, summarized three particular things. One, the money in the accounts through negotiation with the bank, we increased it to a going money market rate of 5% return as opposed to less than 1%, so that was definitely a plus. We are working still on seeing about the funds that were dedicated for the amphitheater, how they can be possibly used for other than the amphitheater, and that's still a work in process. And there will be an article in the next Stroll magazine on the Murraysville Foundation, Parks and Recreation Foundation. That's really it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Jamie?
The last Planning Commission meeting last month, most of the discussion was discussion on really how many moving parts are involved in that and how complicated it's going to be, and they're going to continue discussion on that. The next Planning Commission meeting is this coming Tuesday, the 13th.
Awesome, thank you. Eli?
Yeah, the pension fund meets actually tomorrow. I did get an advance copy, but I'll just defer for the update for the next meeting.
Perfect, thank you. I'll just note that FTMSA meets next Thursday at 6. Okay, we have no workshops items this evening, so can I have a motion for 13A, please?
Motion to approve renewal of the fiduciary liability insurance policy with Chubb for the coverage period of September 1st, 2024 to August 30th, 2025.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Jamie and Carl. Mike, could you just go over the liability insurance policy?
Yes, this is the fiduciary liability insurance policy with Chubb. It is a one-year renewal. The amount is $5,836. It's an annual item that we ask council, that staff asks council to approve. The premium this year is $24 less than last year's premium. Slight savings.
Okay. Questions or concerns about re-upping the insurance policy? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 13A passes, it is unanimous. Can I have a motion for 13B, please?
Motion to consider authorization to advertise for a public hearing for the 2025 through 2029 Capital Improvements Program on August 20th, 2024 at 7 p.m. with a workshop immediately following the hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Carl and Jamie. Pretty self-explanatory. Michael, anything to add?
No, the CIP is required to be presented to council in August of each year, so we will set the public hearing for next meeting, and the finance director will be here to present and answer questions relative to the CIP.
Okay, perfect. Council, any questions or concerns about the advertisement? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 13B passes, it's unanimous. That brings,
Nice. Before we get to item 14A, as you were headed there,
Yeah.
And speaking with the solicitor, it may make sense to have a brief executive session to touch on some of the legal aspects of this item if council would so.
Okay, so I think it would be fair to say we'll be adjourning to executive session to discuss potential litigation?
Yes.
Okay. With that being said, would somebody make a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Motion to adjourn to executive session.
No, one.
Second the motion.
Thanks, Jamie and Carl. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned, but we will be coming back. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we are back in order. So at this point, we had an executive session to discuss potential litigation. Coming out of that, Wes, I believe you have a few things you'd like to go over?
Yes, Mr. Dice. Because of the fact that we have tabled this matter in a few of the past meetings because we did not have a full council present, that we only had 5, and that we decided that 5 was not sufficient to address this issue. We would like to ask of the applicant if the applicant would be willing to sign an extension of the time waiver through September 17th of 2024. And with that having been said, we would also invite the applicant to give a presentation this evening just to address some of the comments that were made by citizens and to answer any questions that may be presented to the applicant by council.
Yeah, if I'd like, my name is Bill Sittig, and I represent the applicant. If I could do this in reverse order, Mr. Long, because I want council to hear legally. I think there's been some misstatements made, and I think there's been confusion of the applications and the vote. So that may change your request for an extension, may change my client's decision. As I understand it, and I haven't been here, but I understand there was a vote on the conditional use application, which is limited to major excavation. That there was no vote on the major land development application. So looking first at the conditional use, and the first thing I have to address is Mr. Tometsko talking about you can attach conditions, and he talked about any number of things from the stream to the access road. No, not in that conditional use application. That's a grading ordinance. If you want to talk about, the slope here, the slope there, or trucks, construction trucks, it's not the development. You can't attach any conditions that he's talking about on that application. I know there are non-lawyers here, and maybe the neighbors are included in that group, that somehow think conditional use means that you can do whatever you want with it. But it's very limited. We meet all the criteria for the major excavation. Staff has dealt with it. There's no discretion but to approve that without conditions. Staff isn't recommending any conditions. I've not heard anything, seen anything in the record that would be an appropriate condition. So that's that. I mean, that's just flat out, that vote was erroneous if it didn't approve it. Hopefully that can be corrected without conditions. The land development application, again, that's strictly a staff review, and staff has reviewed it. The cases are very clear. Staff review dictates it. That's it. We agree with the staff approval. There's no discussion about tree removal, location of access. We meet the ordinance. There's no question of any deviation. There are no conditions on the land development plan. So what I'm saying is we're done. We're not presenting anything anymore. To the extent that there's interest because you want to address, as we understand, because you represent constituents, and particularly Mr. Tometsko, we're happy to explain why the entrance is where it is. It's not that we're being recalcitrant or just saying, oh, we can put it here because we want to, or we're doing it out of spite. There are legitimate reasons, but what we're saying at the end of the day, the council don't have any control over it. But we'll be able to show, and I'm happy to have Mr. Fischiane show, that it can't be on Hilty, flat out can't be on Hilty. And where it is now has to do with site distance. We have a stream and we have limited site distance, and it's in a great location, and it's nowhere. I mean, the one thing to be of consideration, which isn't a legal consideration, it's not in your ordinances, but we understand if we were putting our headlights across, but he's way offset, way down the road. It's not a headlight issue, period. And the whole idea of traffic is nonsense. 24 cars in nobody's code reaches a level of volume. This is absolutely strictly site distance. No question, there's great site distance here. The municipality has just absolutely no discretion, despite the fact that people think there might be a lot of cars and bikes and whatever, it's inappropriate. There's just no control over putting 20 cars for 24 houses. I mean, that's just the law. So that's the framework. With that being said, and if you want to hear from Mr. Fischione, and on the Westertown Road access, happy to do that, explain it, because as you folks know, on the rezoning and laying out of this plan from the very beginning, I have a very, very responsible developer, very high quality, low density. We came here to get a few more houses. That was turned down. This is an absolutely, by right plan. and to hear that if this were done responsibly or better, my client really can't defend himself as easily as I can because I represent all the developers. This Mr. Fischione does not fit in that category, and this is not a development that Murraysville would ever have to be embarrassed about or have to answer to its constituents for. This is something everybody will be proud of. So with that, we also don't want to keep extending it, and I'll just speak to that generally. This is something, it's like we're almost on some of these shows that make you nuts on whatever side of the spectrum you're on. You're saying, this is what I'm hearing. The two people that are going to vote for it aren't here. Okay. Let's count them as 3 no votes. Okay. If they show up, if we have 4, it's not going to change anything. Now, if you say that if those folks weigh in on it and say, I'm going to talk one of you into it, and if one of you think, well, one of those guys might talk me into it, well then, but their absence doesn't change. We need 4 votes. And we're going to continue to ask it to be voted on until we get, whether it's a full council, but we want the people that may be the 4, we have the preeminent rights. We're the applicant. The township and these residents don't have the rights. I'm the landowner. These are constitutional rights. I get to have those 4 people here. Those 2, I may be able to talk one of them into it, and it's my call. I'm willing to forego having to talk one of them into it. This isn't you guys talking, this is me. And I'm saying I'm willing to forego talking one of those 2 guys into it. I'll take my chances with those 4. That's my call. That's why I don't want it. And if there isn't the will to follow the law and do it, then fine. Then turn it down, we'll go to court. That's my view. If there's really a reason, we've extended it multiple times. If there's a reason that you guys can tell me that you need more consideration, then fine. But I don't think it's those 2 folks. I'm assuming they're against us, and they will be again. So it doesn't matter. And it's being portrayed as though somehow you're doing something wrong. No, I'm not going to allow my client to come in and vote where these guys are in the majority or they're freezing us out again on a 3-3. That's my right. And we have the preeminent property rights, not my neighbors. So with that, I'm happy to talk about the access. I'm happy to consider reasons to extend, but we have everybody in the room that we need to vote tonight. I don't know what else that you're going to hear. Again, would like to show you the access. Feel very comfortable about it, but unless there's some other reason not to vote tonight, we'd like to do it.
So
You want to hear from Mr. Fischione on the Weistertown access? We're happy to show that.
I know it's been discussed before, the access, but he's here. Let's hear.
Yes, sir. Just a moment here. And let's see here. Is it not working? Well, I hope that's not the solution. I apologize. There's another one I can get, or you can tell me and I can click it.
For the record, my name is Paul Fischione. I'm the owner of the property on Weistertown Road, and also the managing partner of
Yes, sir. Sorry to interrupt.
Castone Development LLC.
I can tell you that in a minute.
As we've talked about, the placement of the main entrance seems to be an issue that we're having. And I just want to be very clear. This was carefully considered over multiple iterations over multiple years. The entry points are limited due to the stream proximity, and I have slides that I'll show you on this. The steep slopes and the position of the stormwater detention pond. First and foremost, we selected this position for the safety and security of the people entering and leaving the development to ensure that we have safe stopping distances in both directions. And we also took into consideration the residential issues, and we placed the entryway as far as we possibly could from the residents on Westertown Road.
Is it working for you?
Next slide, Michael. In the previous meeting, a comment was made that entrance from Farm Road should have been considered. Well, it was considered, and it was rejected for the simple reason is we do not own the property that's adjacent to Farm Road. Looking at the map, this is, oh,
Sorry.
this is municipal property. This is Westertown Road. On the next slide, you can see the intersection of Westertown and Farm Road here. This is the barn. It's just adjacent to Westertown. This is the clubhouse, and this is the property line. So you can see this is municipal land here, and there's a private residence. So we clearly do not have access from Farm Road. When you look at the red zone, these are the steep slopes and the stream crossing. The entrance was specifically placed in this location. It's 132 feet from the center line of the entrance to the center line of the porch on Westertown, the residence on Westertown Road. So it's 132 feet to the left to the residence. It's 400 feet to the right, and there's the curve, there's the blind curve on Westertown coming down from Hildy. This further describes the various positions with the streams and the steep slopes. This also shows that the area on Hildy Road is very limited. There's not that much frontage from my property onto Hildy Road as compared to Westertown Road. This is what we're facing. These are images of the topography going between the existing entrance, or the proposed entrance, down to MCP. This is some of the most rugged terrain on the property. The stream is at the base, and there's deep ravines. Taking into consideration placing it on Hildy Road, this is where the entrance would be. This is the existing driveway that goes up to the White's residence. When you look to the right, you have 385 feet to the bend on the road on Hildy. The left side is the problem. There's a crest of a hill, and there's a significant dip. If there's a car that's in that dip, you only have 84 feet line of sight to the crest of the hill. That's insufficient stopping distance for safe entry and egress on Hildy Road. The image on the left is looking from Westertown into the entrance of the development. The image on the right is the view that you'll have when you're pulling from the development onto Westertown Road. Now notice this particular tree, make a note of that please, and there's a small structure here, so if you can make mental note of that as well. This is what you're seeing when you're pulling up to the exit. This is the view that you get. This is the tree that I asked you to remember as a reference point as that small structure is here. The first thing that you do when you look to the left is look down the road. This is the residence on Westertown. Look to the right. This is the blind curve that's going up to Hildy Road. To take a little bit further, when you pull into the intersection coming onto Westertown, this is the view that you have going down to the left. This shows the 400 feet to the curve on Hildy Road. I just want to be clear. A lot of this discussion seems to be related to the entry position. I took a drive around Murraysville several weeks ago, and there is a precedent that's been set. There are at least 5 developments that have the entry point directly across from the residencies. Bella Melise, Bianca Rose, Hillstone, Sanria Court, and Villaciano. If you want more examples, I can go into those, but with that, I will thank you for your time and consideration. I'd like to stop here, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Council, questions or concerns for Mr. Figione?
No.
No? We're, okay. So at this point, hearing from counsel for the applicant, they've essentially said, before they consent to any continuance, they essentially want to hear a good cause. You know, there was a statement of a precedent's been set there that there's other developments like this in Murraysville, and I will say, one of the things that concerns me about continuing this again is setting a precedent here of, you know, we're not going to vote on this unless X number of council people are here. That being problematic, you know, at this council meeting, we knew Mr. McKenna wasn't going to be here, so we figured whatever, it's still 6, we'll proceed. We told the applicant to be here. We called Mr. Temesco, told him to be here, asked him to be here. We already know at the next meeting, Eli, you have an engagement, and who knows, something could come up for any of us. Once again, we'll be down to 5 people. That's somewhat of, I think, the problem here. Looking at my notes, I can say the only questions I have, I think, have been answered by Mr. Siddig, but I would ask Mike, Wes, in terms of this development, does it comport with our ordinances? And in staff's review, I mean, is this the way it should be? Were there things you took a pass on? I mean, I just kind of want to know, is this something where a second look is even warranted? Do you think you'll come up with different things? Because I sort of understand the statement of, we don't want to continue this just for the sake of continuing it. So I guess I'm kind of deferring to the two of you to kind of give some thoughts.
I will go first. I think that the applicant's application and development application, I think they're compliant with the terms and conditions and provisions of our ordinances.
Okay, thank you, Wes. Yep.
From a staffing standpoint, the Planning Commission has reviewed this. They've recommended approval to council. It has been reviewed by the EAC. There are other entities that are involved, the DEP as well. And everything that we have been made aware of and everything that is involved in this application seems to be appropriate. There doesn't seem to be a need for any further review. There isn't anything that has been brought to our attention that would make us second guess previous recommendations put forth by the various entities involved. And
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I feel the traffic concerns were very adequately addressed by that presentation. But you do bring up a good point. There are a lot of concerns brought up regarding environmental impacts and streams and whatnot. But my understanding of developments in Westmoreland County is that would be in the purview of the Conservation District and the DEP to the extent they're involved.
That is correct, Mr. Dice.
So in other words, that's not our jurisdiction to regulate. Is that fair to say?
Yes, we defer to the Westmoreland County Soil and Conservation District and the DEP on those issues.
Yeah, in regards to streams and whatnot. Okay. Thank you, Wes. With that being said, I guess right now I am leaning towards saying we should vote on this issue tonight, but I'll defer to council thoughts.
I do have a question with respect to code. Looking here, it says that there's a request for a waiver, and this item will remain outstanding unless the waiver is approved by council, and we haven't denied or approved it. I can tell you what it is. It's
Yeah, please.
201-72.G.
Okay.
It has to do with flag lots. We allow one flag lot in our code, and the request is for 2 flag lots. And they're requesting a waiver.
Okay. They noted. Now, do you feel that that impacts the development such that you think that should not occur? What, is that your thought process, or?
Well, I'd just like to know, with respect to, for us, this will remain an outstanding until the waiver request is approved by council. What is our position on it? Are we
Is
going?
that like putting the cart before the horse?
I guess I would, that language is somewhat ambiguous to me. I mean, Michael, Wes, it says, this item will remain outstanding until the waiver request is approved by council. So is that essentially something else that we should be considering tonight, or that's all included in the package of the approval? Like, how can it remain
That was
outstanding?
all included in the package that was reviewed by staff, I think,
Okay.
Mr. Dice. Is that right, Mr. Nestico?
I'm not sure where you're seeing that. I know it's in the recommendations. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, if you look at, it's under section 201-72.G.
Got it.
You can see it says KU 3524, acknowledge this item will remain outstanding until the waiver request is approved by council.
Yes, and that was listed in the recommendations at the bottom as waiver request to allow 2 flag lots. So that would be something that council would approve in conjunction with the application.
And could you just explain, I think I know what a flag lot is.
Sure.
Just to go over. it.
Yeah, the zoning ordinance only allows for 1 flag lot based on the amount of properties. In this particular proposal, there is a need for 2 flag lots. If my understanding is correct, certainly the applicant is here and could address that, but I know as it went through the Planning Commission, I believe that if the 2 flag lots were not permitted, it was going to create additional excavation and probably further complications with the stream and some of the excavation there. And they may be able to elaborate on that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, if you could pull up Paul's slide. Oh, sorry, Brian Metzler with T3 Global Strategies. Pull up his slide. The lot that we're talking about is, your ordinance particularly reads 1 flag lot per block. It's not written for a cul-de-sac scenario. So, you have a road between a road, you can only have 1 flag lot. So I don't have the pointer.
Like it.
Okay, so this cul-de-sac here, we have that lot and the other one have less than your 200 feet of frontage at the right-of-way. The reason why we recommended that and we got recommendation for Planning Commission that it was a responsible design was because it cut down on the amount of trees we cut down in this area and the amount of roadway and impacts that we had to have. So, we looked at alternatives and we could get the same number of lots, but in order to have a less impactful development, we asked for the waiver for the 2 flag lots instead of 1.
Okay, makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I can agree with it, and in fact, I think flag lots, basically, I guess generally, you can say that they are priced somewhat less than other lots, so that's a bit of a, maybe a detriment to the developer by having 2, but that's his business. And I'm okay with 2 flag lots.
Yeah, especially if it helps with saving more trees
Yeah,
again.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, concerns, thoughts from council? Okay. I mean, at this point, again, I think I said it, even assuming if the two individuals not here were to vote no on this, we could at least see where a vote where it would go tonight. So I guess my recommendation, and I'd leave it up to council, would be for 14A, somebody make a motion to approve or at least consider it. Then we can see where the vote goes.
I don't have the wording for
Yeah, that-
14A other than I would,
If they could pull it up under the screen here. It should be,
where is it? I guess I do have it. I move that we approve conditional use application CU-1-24, Castiglione LLC, a major excavation and steep slope disturbance, approximately 48,000 cubic yards, Western Tyne Road and Hilty Road, 54.57 acres, tax parcels 49-12-00-0-051 and 49-08-00-0-12 RR zoning.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Carl, you can hang on to that for a second. Thank you, Carl and Jason. So again, this is in regards to the first part, which is the excavation, which I believe was said, staff just simply recommends approval. There's really no reason to delay this one. So with that being said, any final questions or concerns from council before we vote? Okay, hearing none. Verdale, I'm going to ask for a roll call on this, please. Yeah.
Mr. Stepanovich,
Yes.
Mr. Dice,
Yes.
Mr. Lemak,
Yes.
Mrs. Ling,
Yes.
Mr. Diakopoulos.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. I'd now bring us to 14B. I think, again, with the explanation given tonight, I think at the very least we should consider it. So I'd ask for a motion for 14B.
I'd like to make a motion to approve S-10-23 Major Land Development Application, Castiglione Plan of Lots, 24-lot subdivision, Westertown Road and Hilty Road, 54.57 acres, tax parcels 49-12-00-0-051 and 49-08-00-0-012 RR zoning.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jason and Eli. Again, we've had discussion tonight. Any final questions or concerns before we would vote on this?
Dane, could you
Yeah.
explain our role on council?
Sure.
I think it's important to understand before we vote for.
To me, I mean, this is something that, and to the point, I think it was said earlier that, you know, you don't have 60 people here to represent you. I would call everyone's attention to the recent Caliber collision development, which did have 60 people here saying they did not want it. And I think what it got into is our role as representatives of Murraysville. You know, I think the metaphor I used is we're not the lords of Murraysville. We don't simply get to, on a whim, say this development goes in, this one doesn't. Again, this is private property rights. Our role is simply to make sure that it complies with our ordinances. Items that were brought up, you know, in regards to traffic. Simply put, I think it was said earlier that 24 units, that's just not going to move the needle in terms of any sort of denial or adjustments based on traffic. It's just, that's not enough additional cars coming and going. And then in regards to all of the environmental concerns, I think Wes, I asked that question somewhat rhetorically. That's not our jurisdiction. That is the Conservation District and the DEP. That's just simply not within our purview. So again, I think really the way I would sum up my view is, people had said at the previous one, imagine if this was in your backyard. And what I said is, I would want it going in with these conditions that have been agreed to presently, because if it doesn't go in right now with everything being agreed to, we could lose some of these conditions. And at this point, legally, the way I see it, there's just absolutely no legal way to deny this, such that even if we as a council voted 5-0 to deny this, it would simply be a nullity within 6 months because it would go to court, we would be overturned, and then we'd be right back here, except all the conditions would be gone and it would be going in and we would have even less say in the matter. So, yeah, I just think it's important to say really here, it's not about the amount of people who are angry about this or anything like that. It's really just a separation of powers issue, that in terms of our abilities as a municipal government, what we can regulate and what we can't regulate, we've regulated it all here. I mean, we even denied this application when it first came for that zoning change because we said no, we want it to comport with our ordinances exactly. They've done that. They've come back and they've done that, and at this point, it's again, I just think sometimes we have to really be mindful of what we're doing here. We're the government, we're not the private property owner. So I hope that wasn't too rambling, but that's...
No, I appreciate you saying all that. So essentially, to wrap up kind of what you were saying, it doesn't matter whether we like it or not, or what our concerns are. If it abides by everything, then it abides by everything.
And
Can I just add one thing?
yeah, please.
I will say, though, I think it has brought, at least to me, an awareness of how busy Westertown Road is with pedestrian traffic. And I do hope that that will be conveyed to residents that are moving in to be extra careful of those pedestrians on that road.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think that's for everyone near any parks or anything. There's a lot of pedestrians and bicyclists in Murraysville, so yeah. Okay. So I believe a motion was made. There's been some discussion. Any final questions or concerns before we do a vote? Okay, Verdale, could you do a roll call, please?
Mr. Stepanovich,
Yes.
Mr. Dice,
Yes.
Mr. Lemak,
Yes.
Mrs. Ling,
Yes.
Mr. Diakopoulos.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. It's approved. Can you hand me my agenda, please? Thank you. We have nothing under engineering or public works. Mr. Nestico, is there any old business this evening?
No old business.
Any new business from anyone? No executive session, no outstanding action items, so just one more motion, please.
Motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned, everyone. Thank you.